Hey, friends, welcome to our nightly broadcast. It is the Quarantine Drinking Team Series. Hey, I'm drinking some Uncle Nearest tonight. Both of these here with my good friend Sailor Guevara. She is the ambassador for Uncle Nearest, and she recently won a pretty big award. I'll ever tell you about that. And it's a well-awarded whiskey. Just all kind of great awards, great honors for a very well-deserved whiskey. Right, Sailor?
I totally agree. And I'm happy to be here tonight. Thanks you for having me.
For joining us. And for everybody watching us on Bourbon Blog, definitely like this, share this, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Ask your questions down below. And let's get everybody drinking some whiskey, right? Get all your friends drinking whiskey. I'm just going to start off right here with the 1856. I'm going to pour a little of this.
Okay. So
and,
the 1856.
Where do you like to start? We can start with either one of them.
Well, I don't know about you, but for me, I'm like a proof level. Like I go based on proof.
Okay, let's go more proof.
So I would say start with the 1884.
We'll go 1884,
and so that's our small batch.
And I think a lot of people watching probably know about Uncle Nearest. And
I should hope so. I think we do a pretty good job.
If they don't, tell us. Tell us about Uncle Nearest.
Yeah, so Uncle Nearest, we are an independent American, the fastest growing independent American whiskey brand in history, which is pretty cool. Very exciting. We are the most awarded new American whiskey brand as well, which is pretty exciting. We have so many firsts that I could fill the show with all the firsts, but we are named after the first African American master distiller on record, and he was the man that taught Jack Daniel to distill and was actually the first master distiller for Jack Daniel. And our founder, Fawn Weaver, who is an incredible woman that I admire. Her and her husband are the founders of the brand. And she read a story in the New York Times written by an amazing writer, Clay Risen, who I'm sure you know, in June of 2016. And the story cited that Jack Daniel may not have learned to distill from a white preacher, Dan Call, the farm he was living on. He may, in fact, have learned from a slave, Nearest Green. And so Fawn read this and was not in the industry, but it really resonated with her, being an African American, being a woman. She was already a best-selling author and knew how to do research and be a great investigative reporter. And so she convinced her husband to take a trip to Tennessee, and they did for her 40th birthday. And she dug into the research, and literally a year and a month later, we had a bottle of whiskey on shelves. But before the whiskey came a scholarship fund, the Nearest Green Legacy Foundation. We erected a memorial in the gravesite of Nearest Green. And she has done this all with the family. And now we work together with Brown-Forman to make sure that the story of Uncle Nearest is incorporated into the Jack Daniel story as well.
That's incredible. So what a great thing. All these first in history. She was quite inspired. She's created an inspiring brand.
Yes.
And this is great. And let me just say, for those of you that know Sailor, you have some friends already wishing you some warm wishes. Ian saying hello, Sailor.
That's my whiskey brother. He is our Chicago brand ambassador.
All right. He's saying hello to you from Chicago. A lot of good people. I saw Scott on here earlier. Scott Wilson is watching as well. Lots of great people watching from all over the country. Some of you may know, maybe you don't. Sailor won a very prestigious award from Whiskey Magazine recently, the Icons of Whiskey. You won Ambassador of the Year. Congratulations on that.
Thank you. It's a weird year to win that, because I expected to be out on the road talking about it a lot more. So, but it was a great way to start the year. I found out right before Christmas last year that myself and another brand ambassador for Uncle Nearest, Richie Michaels, who you may know, is he's our national brand ambassador. We were both nominated, which is mind blowing because we're such a small new brand. And we were up against other really incredible brand ambassadors, and we got to go to New York City where they host the awards. And I actually went with my podcast hat on. So I had my phone, I got this special microphone, and I'm looking at the list and who can I interview while I'm there? Because of course I'm not going to win, but this is going to be a beautiful experience and I'm going to have a great opportunity to interview other people.
Right.
So when they called my name, I was completely shocked. Someone had to, I don't know who did it, push me forward to go up and get my plaque. And it's one of the worst pictures I've ever taken in my life up on the stage. I think I had like my head back and I did one of those. I was just shocked. It's an incredible honor to be recognized for your work as a brand ambassador, because it is, man, you really have to have a passion for what you do. You have to have a very unique skill set to do this job. You have to retain an incredible amount of knowledge. And really, frankly, you have to be learning all the time. You can never stop. I read our story over and over and over again. Like I did a crash course for myself again before this interview, because I'm like, I haven't been out in the market talking about it in a month. Am I rusty? I don't know. But it was such an honor to have my peers nominate me and to win that award and to represent American whiskey. And as a woman as well, to do that was, I'm still just I can get very choked up about it because I've been doing this for a long time.
That's wonderful. And we're really proud of you. And someone's saying, hold on one second. We'll bring it up here was watching us on Twitter, Lundstrom as brand ambassadors rock. So
thank you.
Fan of yours there. And also here's a friend of both of ours that just Susan Pritchard, Sue, and Phil watching us there in Tennessee.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Nearest, great
Hi,
people
Sue.
watching us. Yeah. Great folks. So yes, it's a brand a lot of people are loving. They're loving what you're doing. Tell me, how's it been for you? Obviously, right here's an example. Watching the Quarantine Drinking Team series, and we're live. We're talking about whiskey. So this is opportunities for you to ambassador your brands. But how are you finding creative ways like this to ambassador from basically being quarantined, not being able to go on the road? What are you doing?
Thank you for asking that question. And I'll tell you why. I think that I don't know if many people think about our role and what this has done to our role. And I have a job, and I'm grateful and thankful to still have my job and have a paycheck. But we support the bar and industry staff so much. And so to take that support away, or if we have to hold our support back, it's a scary thing for the bar and restaurant industry. It's a huge thing, because my job is to go face to face, right? I'm out in the market. I'm visiting bars and restaurants. I'm teaching staff. I'm talking to people one-on-one. We make sure that we are creating relationships all the time with consumers and with professionals. So as an excellent example of how my brand got to where it is so quickly, literally 2 days after the shutdown, 2 days, we had a company-wide conference call on video, and it was boom. We have created these committees. Here's the people that are going to head up the committees. And we don't know much yet, but we know this, and we're going to move forward doing this. And our CEO, Fawn Weaver, reassured us about our jobs and our position and the health of our company, which of course we were all freaking out about and calling each other like, oh God, which is normal. So I have been keeping myself very busy. I'm heading up our social media committee with our director of social media, and we have been producing shows like this, live shows, where we interview people in the industry and we talk to each other, and we're doing some brand education. And I think in the beginning, it was a little daunting for the brand ambassadors, because not everyone is, social media king or queen, because again, you're used to being out on the streets. So it's something that has kept us, though, connected. We get to see faces every day, which is really important. Be social, continue to talk about our craft. But I think what I would have to say is the pain that we're experiencing watching our families, which meaning our industry families, our bartenders, our bar managers, our restaurant owners, struggling and fighting to stay alive and doing as much as we can. You know, we have so many beautiful organizations that have stepped up to help, and donations and raising money, and virtual tip jars are so important right now. It's very hard for us. We have to remain very strong, and we have to continue to pay attention to our industry family and make sure they're okay. And if they're not, see if there's a way that we can help them. And another thing that is really important, if you don't mind, that I want to bring up what our distillery is doing right now.
Yes.
So, Fawn Weaver she's just an incredible woman. And when this all started, of course, you know, I think as a lay person, we were just watching this and a little bit in shock, and most people were frozen. Like, what does this mean? What are we doing? You know, what can we do? Am I at risk? Who's at risk? And so my brother is a nurse in New York City.
Wow. And
he's my baby brother. So I feel very helpless watching him right now. He's literally at war, and that's what it's like for them. And it's scary to be a family member of any frontline worker at the moment. And she saw one of my brother's posts that I shared on social media and sprung into action and had and found N92 masks or N95 masks and paid whatever the price was, I can only imagine, and sent them to him like this. And then it just didn't stop. So our distillery now is the sole function is to Fawn and some of our investors are purchasing these masks at whatever price. And she literally said, let the government argue about it. I'm just going to take action.
Right.
We're going to do something about this. And so we send out masks to those in need. So all you have to do is send us an email or contact us on social media. And if you are a frontline worker, family of a frontline worker, we will get masks out. And so that is what our main goal is right now, to support that. So us as brand ambassadors feel like any sales that we can continue to drive is for that reason. We're not sending out masks for accolades. It took her a long time to even talk about it publicly, but it's a beautiful, incredible, and meaningful thing. And I'm really, really proud that that's what we're doing right now.
That is really meaningful. So you're finding those that need the mask, that are the frontline workers, and you're helping get those masks to them.
Yes.
Excellent.
It's and to see the people posting on, you know, I can see the ones that are on social media thanking us, and you know, my wife is a nurse, or my sister, and I know and I can understand because I know what that feels like. It's just absolutely incredible. And we know a little bit about now how the virus affects the African American community specifically, and so that's another portion of this that Fawn is working on currently with some pretty incredible people in the medical industry. So she is, we're going to have an initiative related to that as well, because we are an African American owned company. So
that's so important.
Yeah. When we say we have a hashtag, more than whiskey, and really that was about the legacy of Uncle Nearest of Nearest Green. It goes far beyond that. And when we say family, whiskey family, we really mean it. And I think this unfortunate circumstance is really highlighting that. It's more than, and she tells us all the time, you know, of course I want you to make sales and sell the whiskey, but share the story. This is what I want you to excel at. That's what I want you to focus on, is share the story, and let's keep this man's legacy in the light.
What goes beyond the whiskey and what's really meaningful to us right now. That's so important. I'm glad you shared that. And for those watching it, they basically, if they know someone that needs a mask or can get the help, they just need to reach out to you or Uncle Nearest, something.
Yes.
Just reach out to the brand, folks. That's
reach out to the brand. So you can on Facebook, Uncle Nearest, or our website, unclenearest.com. Really important right now as well. There are a lot of virtual tip jars out there. Yes. So if you have your favorite bartender, or the server that used to wait on you at your favorite restaurant, if you can find them on social media, or just reach out to the restaurant and ask them, hey, do you know about so-and-so? How does she have a Venmo? $5, $10 means everything right now. Takeout from restaurants. If you are in a state that has to-go cocktails or cocktail kits, or food, takeout, whatever you can afford and whatever, of course, what's in your means right now, that's how you can help out. And that's how really, when this is all over, who do you want to still be there? What business do you want to still be alive? We have to stay connected.
If you've always appreciated what they do, whether it's a restaurant, a bar, or a bartender server, make sure that you are supporting them now. And we've been doing a virtual tip jar at home too. Every time you pour a drink, or every few times you're going to catch up on it, actually have a jar that reminds you that that's how they're surviving, and they're not getting that now. So thank you for being such a big proponent of that, and for all that Uncle Nearest is doing for everyone. That's so important. It's great to see a great brand get good awards and have amazing whiskey, but the fact that you've done this means all the much more. So.
And that's how I feel about it. And when I found this brand, because I actually found this brand and banged on Fawn's door and said, you have to hire me and I have to work for you because XYZ. I've been in the whiskey business for a really, really long time, the bar industry even longer. And I always said, I know I'm doing a good thing talking about whiskey for a living and hawking whiskey, because there isn't a downside to it. In my opinion, it's a happy thing, right?
Right, of course.
When I read about this brand, I said, oh, now I'm really doing something good. This is changing history. And you are in the whiskey business as well. To read about the story, the first thing I said was, oh my God, this is going to change everything. This changes the whole story of American whiskey and American history in regards to this industry. What is going to come of this in 10, 20 years when other people dig into their past for real and want to shine a light on who really helped build that industry or product or brand. So I feel honored and blessed to be telling this story every day, and especially because our master blender is Victoria Edie Butler, and she's the great-great-granddaughter of Uncle Nearest. So I have hugged and touched and looked in the face of Victoria, and I know that this is her family and her legacy. So it's very real to us because the family's involved, that this is about them and this is about her. And that's a beautiful thing.
She's the great-great-granddaughter.
Yes.
Too great. So this is quite a history and quite a lineage to have. And then she's the one that's blending the whiskey and picking the whiskey then. So
the whiskey that you're drinking now, the 1884 small batch. So the significance of the years on the bottle. So that one in specific, that's the year that we believe Nearest retired and put down his last barrel of whiskey. And there's a whole story why we believe that. It's a 93 proof. It's a minimum of 7 years in that. So the barrels are hand selected by our founders. And then Victoria sits down and she curates the batch. And by the way, our director of whiskey operations is Sherry Moore, who I'm sure you also know, formerly of Jack Daniel.
Yeah.
So that's again so Victoria and Sherry work together like Jack and Nearest work together. Like a full circle. And she's also a distant relative, Sherry, of Jack Daniel. Of Jack Daniel. So we have kind of that coming back full circle. So the idea was to have a member of the family on the board to curate each batch.
Right.
So Victoria just happened to be first. And so if you look at the back of the bottle, her signature is on there. Right. It wins a double gold right out the gate. Wow. So racks up awards like almost immediately. And so we were like, well, and Sherry's like, you definitely have a palate. And it just came naturally to her. So she curates those batches for us, which is really, really amazing. I see that someone asked about a distillery location.
Yeah. Is there an experience of any kind that's that you guys have, or
Yes. So we broke ground. So we broke ground and opened our visitor center of the distillery, the Welcome House, last year, September 5th of 2019. It's in Shelbyville, Tennessee, or
Shelbyville.
as I'm getting better, Shelbyville, Tennessee. Trying to say it like locals, which is right outside, well, on the way from Nashville to Lynchburg. And it is a 270-acre former Tennessee walking horse farm. So you can see it right off the main road. It's used to be the Sand Creek Farm. Absolutely beautiful. And this year we will open up another phase of the distillery in September. So once we are open again, and that decision will be made based on state mandates of reopening visitor experiences. And once we feel that's true, Ian, it still is a Tennessee walking horse farm. I'm sorry, you're absolutely right. It is. Yes, it is. You're right. So once we feel safe to open again, you can absolutely visit the distillery, and I highly suggest that you do. It's beautiful.
We would love to see it. I think that would be incredible to see the distillery and the horses. And it sounds like, and I've seen pictures. It looks like an amazing place. So
it's incredible. I'm very proud of it.
And this one is minimum of 7 years old. So it's a blend of 7 and upwards then?
Correct, yes.
Excellent.
Yes.
And this is the small batch. And what do you like best about the small batch? 93 proof. It's the 1884.
So I love both of both proof levels. The 1856 that you'll taste next is 100 proof. I really like having higher proof spirits because they go great in cocktails. Number one, they can hand up to dilution. But I also like I like flavor forward. So I'm really excited when you get a little bit above like that 85, 87, 90.
More of that extra heat and flavor.
Yes, I like the warmth with it, but I really like the full flavor. But if I put the two of them next to each other, I always say 1884 is daytime. 1856 is, let me try this right. 1856 is nighttime, or you can say feminine, masculine, delicate, bold. So I like the nuances in the 1884. It's bright. It's vanilla and cream and citrus. It's very nuanced is what I like about it. That's
the nice sugars that come right off the nose and the palate both. They're very elegant sugars. A little bit of citrus. I mean, it's very beautiful. It's delicate, but yet interesting.
Yeah. That's exactly. So it's funny because you could describe Victoria like that. So she is beautiful and she is nuanced, but she is also behind that. She is bold and strong and yeah, I don't know. It's funny because it's the body. I don't know. It's so funny. The description of the spirit matches Victoria.
That's amazing. No, it's good, and the finish is it has kind of that creamy note, a little bit of buttery note, kind of from that extra age. So 7 years old up to what is it? Maybe 9 or 10. Is that kind of what we're looking at, or they just don't say 7 years plus?
We say a minimum of 7 years. Yeah,
minimum.
Exactly.
It's very nice. It's very nice. You've been making some cocktails I've been seeing on your Uncle Nearest channel. What have you made with this one recently? I know I watched a few of them.
So one of my favorites to do with that guy is I like to do the 1884 with other delicate flavors, so I like to use aperitifs that are delicate. It goes wonderful with ginger, anything ginger. So ginger liqueurs, ginger beers, other citrus. Let me tell you, one of the best whiskey sours you can ever have is with our 1884. Absolutely killer with the 1884.
Maybe try that in a little while.
Would highly recommend.
I can see how that would kind of give a nice back note to the ginger and really complement that.
Yes.
Very nicely. That's great. And these, of course, both of what we're going to be trying, these are in most every state, right? Every state?
We are in every state now. Every state now.
So no matter where you're watching from, you can find this.
Right now, if you go onto our website, you can get free shipping. And we have a little friend code, Liquid Gold, and we posted on our Facebook and our Instagram about it, so you can get it shipped right to your door with no shipping charges. So
it can go right from you all to them.
That's correct. Yes.
Cool. Yes. And part of that is, and I may be wrong, is part of that due to some of the laws that have happened since COVID as far as being able to ship directly? Is that
so? We have a third party that we use called Passion Spirits. Okay. Yeah, because exactly. Some states have loosened up the laws of shipping liquor into your state.
Yeah.
Some states you can actually have the restaurant or bar included with like a Grubhub or an Uber Eats order, things like that. So you definitely want to ask about that, a whole bottle. And some states, restaurants can sell you whole bottles as well now, which I think that's most states except for some of the control states.
Right. I'm glad that it's loosened up, and hopefully, for the sake of everyone, whether it's the distributors, the brands, the restaurants, bartenders, it'll continue to be loose where it needs to be loose. I think that's really important. Yes. Someone did ask here, how does the 1884 do as an old fashioned, or is the 1856 better for that? Says,
you know what? That's an excellent question, Scott. So I would do the 1884 as your traditional old fashioned. So your simple syrup and aromatic bitters. The 1856, if you use a little bit of maple syrup instead of your simple syrup, and you use a lemon wedge instead of an orange wedge, just papow. That's kind of how I do it. So I like the deeper flavors. I like to enhance those baking spices, and I might use maybe I have a tobacco bitters that's about to be released that's made with some beautiful Pacific Northwest tobacco. So a little tobacco bitters with it in the 1856. I like matching ingredients with the base, with the notes of the base spirit. And so that's kind of how I would do it. But they both make amazing old fashions because they're so full of flavor. And so you don't need a lot of other things with this. So low component cocktails are really great for Uncle Nearest, but they definitely stand up to, like, for example, tiki cocktails. You've got tons of dilution. And
I saw you doing one of those, I think, the other day.
Yes. Yeah. So that's one of my favorites is I'll do tiki cocktails with the 1856 because it's 100 proof, and typically you would use overproof rum. Right. It can stand up to the flavors, and it also plays really well with rum, which is super fun.
Did you say tobacco bitters? Is that what you were saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I partnered with a local company called Skidmore Alchemy, and they're in Spokane, Washington. And they are a wonderful couple who this year opened their own bar. Tough year to be new bar owners. But they also make bitters, boutique bitters, and they are delicious. Wow. So I got together with them and said, I want to come out with the tobacco bitters because that's really one of my favorite profiles with our 1856. Okay. And I went around and looked for the perfect tobacco locally, and it's actually pipe tobacco that I use because I wanted that sweetness. And it's from the Boulevardier area, so we incorporated that into it. And I'm hoping in the next couple of weeks I'll have pre-orders on that. I just got the sample of it, and I have the bottle somewhere here, and it right here.
Yeah, show it.
Little guy. It's not labeled yet, but the aroma and the taste of it is just, if we had smell-o-vision, oh my gosh. So I'm really excited to get this out.
You partnered with, again, the name of the company where we can find this is what?
They're called Skidmore Alchemy.
Skidmore Alchemy.
Yes.
Skidmore Alchemy.
Yes.
You partner with them. You help them find some tobacco.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pipe tobacco grown in
Boulevardier, Washington.
In Washington.
Yes.
In Washington, and they're making. So how do they infuse that? How does that work out? Just using a little touch of that tobacco.
So it's a proprietary process. I used to make it. They still sell it at Indian Creek Distillery in Southwest Ohio, right outside of Dayton. I made a line of bitters for them. Let's see.
She has everything in arm's reach. I like that.
I tried to. So I have so these bitters, you can buy them from Indian Creek, and they're called Medicine Man bitters, and they're all tinctures, and I did a tobacco bitters for them. Nice. You have to be very careful how you infuse them, of course, because you can only ingest, but these are tiny tinctures, so it's totally safe.
I remember this years ago when we first started bourbonblog.com, and we still have a great bartender mixologist named Stephen Dennison, and he created this tobacco Manhattan a long time ago, and we featured it. And I think a few of us decided we might try to, because I didn't even know the recipe, but I realized right away you have to only infuse so much of this, or else it can be really heavy with tobacco. You have to
it can be toxic, so you have to be really careful.
Toxic. So you have to, if anyone watching, because if you just decide to go out and try this, definitely read someplace first how to do it, because
consult your local mixologist before you mess around with tobacco.
Tobacco is serious stuff, but I think but just enough of it for your bitters will be amazing. I can't wait to try those.
I'll send you a bottle.
Yeah, I want to try this. It sounds amazing. So that's so deep. It's so fun to see what people are making into bitters and other ways to really elevate spirits. And that's cool that you're part of that. So that's it's a lot of fun. So it's Washington that you're in then.
Yes, I'm right now I'm in between Seattle and Spokane, Washington, and normally I'm on the road every day of the week almost. I have the whole Pacific Northwest as my territory at the moment. We're working on getting me some help, but it's been interesting being out here. I'm from the Northeast and spent many years in Ohio and Kentucky. Really, I wanted to hone my craft and learn more. And I used to sit in the gift shop at Wild Turkey until Jimmy Russell finally noticed me one day, like, "Why you keep coming here?" And I'm like, "Well, can I just sweep your floors or something? I just think, can I learn something by osmosis?" And so coming out to the Pacific Northwest was a huge change for me. It's a very different entity, but talk about passionate people. Especially Seattle has an incredible cocktail scene, and they're very discerning, and some amazing bars. Tales of the Cocktail made some announcements this week about some winners, and we had a lot of Pacific Northwest bars and restaurants on there. So I'm really proud of my PNW family.
A lot of great folks there that are very talented. What are some of your favorite places when you're on the road? Where do you like to go as far as bars go and locations go?
Oh my gosh, you're making me choose between all my children.
You can name as many.
So, Multnomah Whiskey Library in Portland, Oregon. Have you been there, Tom?
No, I haven't. It's been a while since I've been to Portland. I've heard about it, but it's been a while since I've been to Portland.
So let's bring you on a trip out to the PNW. We are members, and so it's a beautiful, really just wonderful experience. So I love going to Multnomah when I'm in town, and in Seattle. Gosh, there's just so many. The Gerald is one of my favorite spots in Ballard. Some of my favorite restaurants right now are in Seattle, the Jerk Shack, and oh gosh, it's so hard for me. Rumba is amazing. Rob Roy, of course.
Wow.
Of course. There's just so many wonderful spots. It's hard. And in Spokane is an emerging city that's in the inland, and it gets eclipsed by Seattle all the time. But it's kind of like Cincinnati 10 years ago, where people just kind of wrote it off and were like, this isn't going to happen. And you had all these like literally looked like bombed out buildings, and now they're worth $500,000. And, the restaurants get written up in the New York Times. Spokane's one to watch, let me tell you. So there's some great, wonderful bars and restaurants in Spokane. You have the Gilded Unicorn, and their group is amazing. And the Volstead Act is incredible as well. If you want to take a trip out to the PNW, just find me. You can find me very easily all over the internet, and I love to give out recommendations, so I'm happy to do so.
Well, look for Sailor, and no, that's fantastic, and the bartenders and restaurants are loving both of these whiskeys, and
yes,
and putting their own cocktails on the menu, and people are loving this stuff.
Yes, the story is incredible. It's the easiest whiskey I've ever sold, but the story's great, but you have to have really good whiskey to back it up. And I think all of us brand ambassadors would say the same thing. We were nervous in the beginning before we actually tasted the whiskey, like, oh God, what if the whiskey isn't good? And the whiskey you can sell this brand without the story and with the story, because the whiskey tells its own story. The
whiskey, and that's important. It makes it just that much more
very important. Yes.
Any other? Someone's asking if any other expressions besides these two are in the collection currently or coming up.
Yep.
Let's see. She has them already behind her. I love that.
I'm tethered, so it's hard for me to turn around.
I'm going to pour a little the other.
We also have something really, really special. This is our 1820, And it is single barrel.
It's a single barrel.
Single barrel. So you can only buy that at the distillery usually. Every once in a while, one of the states will get some, and we have to fight for it, and we have to prove why we should get it. I got a bottle I got a barrel last year, and I got to pick the barrel with two of my wonderful accounts in Spokane, the Northern Quest Casino and the Davenport hotels.
Oh, nice.
It was so much fun. We got to sit down and taste a couple of barrels, and we did it blind. And chose this is from one of those barrels, and chose what we loved the most. Only 1% of our barrels are actually chosen to go into the 1820. And what's really cool about this is that so 1820 is the year that, according to the census, we believe Uncle Nearest was born.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
you have 1820, he was born. 1856 is the year he perfected the Lincoln County process. 1884 is the year he retired. So that's the significance of the years. The minimum age on these barrels is 11 years. The proof is always above 108. And 1%. So
these are very rare.
Very, very rare. We did an online sale for Christmas, thinking this would be a smart idea, and we literally crashed the internet. Our third party could not handle, because we did a countdown, and I had people like bombarding me with messages, and I'm like, I'm not in charge of this. I can't help you. So we had to do a second sale. It sold out in, I think, under 30 minutes or something. Really insane. Yeah, insane. So they don't, if we do put them on an liquor store location, they last like minutes. People will line up for them. So they are absolutely delicious. If I had any, I would have sent it to you, but this is my only bottle.
We'll try it again at some point.
We will.
And again, that you only find them either at the distillery or at a restaurant or bar that you all help pick up.
Yeah, and you would know, your local, believe me, your local brand ambassador would light up the market, and you would hear about it when we get them in. But really, the best way to get the 1820 is visit the distillery, and you can get them there. Yeah,
gives you one more reason to go to Shelbyville and check out what they're doing there. And but for now, the 1856. So that's the other expression, and probably some other expressions coming out at some point in the future, I would imagine.
Oh, sure. I'm sure we'll have a huge portfolio at some point. But considering that, we were born in 2017, this is quite quick.
Got a little time. The
1856,
the 1856 premium whiskey. It's 100 proof. Tell us about this one.
Yeah, so that's our flagship, and that's 9 to 14 years old, and like you said, it's 100 proof. So what I love most about that spirit is, so when I go to pour that, I'll show you what I do for people, especially people that are whiskey novices. So I'll hide the proof level, and I just pour it, and I don't say anything yet, because you know how people, you can it's so easy to influence someone and to say like, well, here's 100 proof. People are already going to kind of brace for it.
They may not. Yeah.
I don't want you to brace for it. I want you just to try it and have your own experience with it. And then when I tell them it's 100 proof, they go, no. And I'm like, I promise. No, like, yes.
It does drink a little lower.
Very smooth.
It's smooth. It's softer. You definitely have some warmth there, but it doesn't taste like a lot of other 100 proof spirits.
Right? Very smooth. And that is the work of Sherry Moore, our director of whiskey operations, who has been she is a veteran of the industry, and she has been a leader in this industry for a very long time. She's another unsung hero in American whiskey for sure. Right. She is, we're dangerous together. We can go down the nerdy rabbit hole like for a long time, and people are like, their eyes are rolling back in their head. She really believes in filtration as one of the most important methods of creating a tasty whiskey. And I absolutely agree with her. So we do 2 extra steps of filtration, and I believe that you see the proof of the importance in that when you sip that whiskey, specifically our 1856. So we use the Lincoln County process, of course, and then we do diatomaceous earth, and then we do coconut shell fiber. So that's really, I think that's really a testament to the premium quality of our whiskey. And that's why it's so smooth.
Tell us about that coconut shell fiber. I've heard about this, but I don't. How does that work?
So apparently they're pads.
Explain the whole thing so I'll understand it.
So from what I understand, so you're not gonna. So immediately, sometimes people go, "Oh yeah, I taste coconut." I'm like, "Well, you're not gonna." If you taste coconut, it's not because of the fiber pad. They're like pads, and they're like soaking pads, and they really just take out a lot of the impurities that you don't want in your spirit, right? And you would think, well, we've done our first level of filtration, and there's, we're good. There's not many impurities left, and then you do these extra steps, and you're like, wow, there's still so many impurities. But how do you do that without removing flavor? How do you do that without risking some of the flavor in the whiskey? And that is a real concern. Right. And Sherry just happens to be a genius at things like this. And she's just so knowledgeable, and a testament to our founders that have really given her, they step back and go, well, this is your arena. This is your expertise. How would you like to do this? How would you like to drive this process? And that's what she's getting to do, which is creating beautiful whiskey. So I can't
filters that it's going through. That's not removing flavor, but it's helping the essence, the smoothness of the whiskey. It's really nice. I mean, this is it's beautiful stuff.
Thank you.
For those people watching who may be not familiar with Tennessee whiskeys versus other whiskeys, what makes a whiskey a Tennessee whiskey, and what makes these special in that category? Obviously they are, but just for people who don't.
So it's a great question, and it's something that we feel is very important to talk about, because Tennessee whiskey used to be the premium category.
Right.
And that's a huge discussion. One of our brand ambassadors, who I mentioned earlier, Richie Michaels, he does these incredible classes that's called The Truth About the Lincoln County Process. And so when we are all, back at it again and can go out into the market, I highly recommend looking to see if those classes are available in your area. So what Tennessee whiskey is bourbon plus. That's it. It's that simple. We are bourbon. We have to do all of the things that bourbon does to be called bourbon, right? All of those same steps. And then we do one extra step of filtration, which is charcoal mellowing, the Lincoln County process. That's it. It's that simple. It is. So that makes it by default more of a premium spirit, because you're doing extra steps. It takes a little bit longer in that process. And then we go even further, of course. So you're taking that sugar maple charcoal and you are resting the whiskey in that. And there's, some people do it differently. They'll soak it or they run it through it, depending on what your process is. Right. And that charcoal is removing impurities. Charcoal filtration, it's in your Brita pitcher, right? If you have a Brita water pitcher. It's the same philosophy. When I was young and in college, I was very bad at math, so I had a tutor, but I loved science. And this kid was had an incredible brain, and he was tutoring me, and I was very hungover one day because I was a college kid. And he's like, "Well, what are you drinking?" And I'm like, "Vodka." And he assumed correctly that it was very cheap vodka, and he's like, you can just put it through coffee filters with a little bit of charcoal in there 20 times, and you have the most expensive vodka ever. And I was like, what? And he was right. But you see, that's going to remove all the flavor too. That's one of the things about vodka. So again, that's how do you get that ultimate filtering and still retain your flavor. But yeah, it's important for us to elevate the entire category of Tennessee whiskey, and for people to understand really what it is, that it's not anything less than bourbon, that it is a premium category. And it's important to us as well, because Uncle Nearest helped to define that process. And another beautiful part of our story is how Tennessee whiskey came to us and said, how can we help you, when Fawn was starting. And it's a beautiful thing. How tight our whiskey community is, and how much, we help each other, and the camaraderie. And that was really proven out in this.
Excellent. So thank you for answering those questions. It's bourbon plus that filtration, the Lincoln County process, which is indeed what Uncle Nearest helped to perfect.
Correct. That's correct. Yes.
And that, and that comes full circle. And now you do that process, plus there's some other proprietary ways that it's filtered to make this flavor stand out, to give it smoothness. And it is just, this is so smooth. This is great. This is really, it doesn't taste anything like, or feel like 100 proof usually does. That's the beauty of it. So
that's how I feel about it as well, which can be a little dangerous. So,
it can be. Someone just said up here, I wanted to say thanks for watching us on Twitter. Oak Reviews on Twitter said, I've had the Uncle Nearest single barrel and it's outstanding. Thank you, Oak Reviews, for sharing that, and definitely retweet this. And everybody who's watching, again, if you're just joining us, we're talking with my good friend Sailor from Uncle Nearest. Definitely like this, share this on all your social platforms. Enjoy. I see you have a cocktail. This is such an interesting coincidence. I see you now have a cocktail. I just got delivered a cocktail from my
wife. Oh, yeah. See, that's wonderful. So cheers, Tom.
Cheers. She just made an old fashioned with, she used the 1884. She's gotten really good at, she's always been good, but she's gotten even better now since the quarantine.
Right.
Just a spot to, once a day as we do these nightly broadcasts on Bourbon Blog. So let's see how this is with the, I'm sure it'll be amazing.
Oh, yeah. Nice ice cube game there. I like it.
Yes, very large ice cube. Oh, that is good.
Isn't that delicious?
Really good old fashioned.
Yeah.
Well done. That was nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are you drinking? What is that?
So I'm drinking a Boulevardier. Boulevardier is one of my favorite, because I'm on the West Coast, so it's not dinner time yet. So I drink like a European. I like my aperitifs. So the Boulevardier is so easy to make. So choose your favorite sweet vermouth, choose your favorite aperitif. Campari is my go-to. And you just do 1 ounce of Campari, 1 ounce of sweet vermouth, and then 1.5 ounces of your Uncle Nearest. Wow. You can stir it or shake it, whatever you like, and then just add a little bit of an orange rind to it. And it's just quick, easy, but super delicious.
That's lovely. Cheers, Sailor. That's great. We're having a cocktail with some Uncle Nearest tonight here on a Saturday night as we are as we're still quarantined. We basically talked about how this has changed the games for you as a brand ambassador, for brands, many more of them going live, showcasing cocktails or saying, hey, here's what we're doing at our distillery. Come by, have some cocktails to go. And some of them are really getting into it, which is great.
Yeah.
What do you think long term, what's happening now will affect whether it's the role of the brand ambassador, the role of how distilleries market themselves? How do you see that going long term? What we're learning now and what's going to be happening, say, months after this or years after this is over? How will it change this?
Yeah, this is an important discussion. I think that everyone's beginning to have is, how has this changed our industry? And if you think it hasn't, I think you're very wrong. In my opinion, this is going to change our industry forever. I think in some really great ways and some very painful ways. There sadly won't be a lot of bars and restaurants that come back and make it. I do think this is a great time for people in the industry that are veterans that want to protect an industry that they love. I'm one of those people to say, like, how do we create an entity for 401ks, for healthcare, for the bar and restaurant industry? Is there something nationally we can do? The USBG is a wonderful, wonderful resource, but they're a small entity and they're limited, and I don't know how they've been doing what they've been doing. It's incredible. How can we take that one step further? How can we make sure that we're protecting our workers so that they have retirement, so that they have paid vacation, sick leave, so they have health care that's affordable? How do we also protect bars and restaurants that are being gouged on rent and unfair taxes and lack of stimulus and tax abatements? But also, what is the role of a brand ambassador? What will the role be? What is the role of a distillery? So I think you can look at the manufacturing portion of it, much like what happened in World War I, World War II, where you had to pivot your manufacturing. And so how many distilleries are making hand sanitizer right now? I would say probably the majority of them, I think is fair to say, or at least half of them. Yeah. And it's the craft distilleries that were some of the quickest to pivot on that. It's a beautiful thing. It's also something that can keep them alive and keep them open.
Right.
I think some people are concerned, well, we're teaching everyone how to make cocktails at home. Will they not want to have cocktails out? And I say that's absurd. We have cocktails out because we enjoy being social. We enjoy the experience.
Right.
And we want to be served. I can make cocktails. I go out for cocktails all the time. You know what's better than my own cocktails? Someone making me a cocktail. So that's, something that I will continue to do. And I think everybody will. But I do think everybody's going to come out of this a little bit smarter. I think they're going to come out of this a little more discerning. I think the everyday person, the consumer, is going to come out of this with a greater respect for the bar and restaurant industry, for sure. And the importance of our chefs, the importance of our line cooks, the importance of our bussers and our barbacks. I think one of the great things is how difficult do you think it's going to be for states to repeal things like cocktail kits and to-go cocktails and bottle sales? And it's going to be tough to take that away. I think it's going to be real tough. I also think it's going to be tough for states like Pennsylvania to hold on to their control. I think that's,
so maybe for the control states, there'll be less control.
Oh, I think that's,
I
yeah.
think you're right.
I think that was coming nationally anyway, don't you? Like, with the growth of American spirits manufacturing, it's an antiquated prohibition bunch of crap, in my opinion. And that was on its way out anyway. I think this is going to speed up that process. Mm-hmm. We don't need prohibition. We don't need prohibition laws. So I really think that at least for the rest of the year, we'll be able to continue to sell to-go cocktails or bottles from on-premise, cocktail kits, things like that. What I really want to see out of this is greater protection for American spirits manufacturing.
Right.
I really want to see the Craft Distillers Association has to work way too hard for legislation. It's incredibly unfair. The amount of taxes that distilleries pay, especially craft distilleries pay out, manufacturers, spirits brands, suppliers, the amount of taxes we pay is unbelievably fair. It's absolutely ridiculous. Right. So I think that really, get together with your attorney friends right now, because now is the time to get prepared. Now is the time to say, when this is all over, we've got work to do, and it's going to be easier work, I think, than previously. That's kind of a long answer.
No, you're right. Start ramping that up now as brands, but also consumers get behind that and encourage legislators to make it easier on those craft distillers that do pay way too many dollars in taxes. And I agree. I mean, it's laws like there's been more and more laws, even like Sunday laws in states like Indiana, Kentucky. They have loosened up over the years. So I do think that you'll see that more and more, some of those prohibition laws going away. So the more we can make it easier in a good way for people to produce, to buy.
Yeah.
And make it more affordable for everyone, all the better. And now, when it comes to go cocktails, have you seen any being made with Uncle Nearest, or just any in general that you've loved and said, "Wow, what a great to-go cocktailer kit"?
Yeah, so I love. This is one exciting thing that's beautiful to watch, and I understand that it's born of strife, but it's just beautiful. Right. For example, there's a small craft distillery in northern Idaho, and I'm right on the border of northern Idaho.
Oh, wow.
So kind of like going across the river from Cincinnati to Newport, right? And so they also have a bar. So they have a full bar in addition to their own distillery, and they make honey spirits and they make brandy. So with their full bar, they carry Uncle Nearest, and then they opened a whiskey bar, the first in all of northern Idaho this year, called the Bee's Knees. And I had just gotten together with Screwball. I don't know if you're familiar with them, the peanut butter whiskey. Yeah. I call it a peanut butter liqueur.
It is. It's fun. It's fun stuff.
I didn't want to.
They're like, wow.
I know, because at first you're like, what is this, like Fireball? And it's not at all. So, but great for cocktails. So we got together to feed Spokane. So I got together with the market manager for Washington, and we opened up a tab at a local place, independent restaurant that has been just doing a great job while they've been open, and they have pizza to feed local bartenders and frontline workers. And I said, this peanut butter old fashioned that I make with Screwball is fantastic. And
Wow.
the Bee's Knees picked it up. And so this weekend, if you're in Northern Idaho, you can get that peanut butter old fashioned from the Bee's Knees using the Screwball and Uncle Nearest. And it's really delicious.
Good.
A little bit of chocolate bitters in there. You can ask me for the recipe if you'd like. Get in touch, and I'll give you it's delicious.
Go ahead, tell us. I mean, if you know it, or we can post it later.
Yeah, so we can definitely post it. So I do 2 ounces of. You can use either expression in it, really. So I use the 1884. So 2 ounces of the 1884. You want to do a couple dashes of a chocolate bitters. I use the Skidmore Alchemy, of course, because they're local bitters, and then you can do like a 3/4 ounce, depending on how sweet you like things, or a 1/2 ounce of your Screwball. And then just a little, you want to have a little citrus in there just to balance it. Do a little bit of lemon expressed in there. So you're using your Screwball instead of your simple syrup. You don't want to put another sweetener in there because that's your sweetener. But it really has that peanut flavor. Tastes like they've somehow distilled peanuts, which I don't think you can do, but I don't know.
It is good.
So it tastes like almost like a Reese's peanut butter cup in a glass.
Oh, that sounds good.
Delicious.
And it's called
we just call it the peanut butter old fashioned.
Peanut butter old fashioned. So try that at home, folks. There's so many great things and so many new things there weren't. I mean, you've been at this for how many years have you been? You told me earlier.
So the spirits industry, most of my life. I'm 47. I just turned 47. I'm proud of it. I've been an ambassador in the whiskey business for about 15 years now.
Oh, yeah, that's about how long we've been doing Bourbon Blog, for about 15 years. So there's so many new expressions, so many new things that have happened, so many new ways we can tell our story, which is great. And I think that you have some really good insight on what happens from here. And also, Sailor you have a podcast, right?
I have a podcast network, actually.
Podcast network. Tell us about that.
Yeah, some friends that have joined as well. It's called Spirit of Rock Podcast Network. So spiritofrockpods.com. And it all started with a podcast called Metal, Rock, and Whiskey. It's just started there. I was on another podcast network for a little while, and then went off on my own. And we battle 2 albums or 4 albums, depending from an artist, and we pair a whiskey with it every time. And we argue, we debate, we fight over it. It's really fun. You should come on sometime and do it with us. It's so much fun. We have a blast. And then I started a podcast called Pretty Good for a Girl, and we highlight women in STEM and the spirits industry. And good friend of mine, Kitty, she and her partner, Misty, Kitty is also a brand ambassador for Uncle Nearest in Boston. And they have a podcast called Drinking Like Ladies after their book. I don't know if you're familiar with it, Drinking Like Ladies.
I think I've heard of this, yeah.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. And so they're on the network as well. And we have a podcast about pro wrestling. And we have a podcast about a band that kind of walked away from their lives to go on the road full time, a married couple. And they're just incredible, called When Particles Collide. So yeah, lots of fun stuff. And then now Uncle Nearest has a podcast on there as well. It's us brand ambassadors, and it's called Pound the Rock. And we have a YouTube channel.
Pound the Rock.
Yes, that's what we say. We pound the rock every day. That's our thing. Pound the rock.
That's the name of the podcast.
Yes, it's the name of the podcast and our YouTube channel as well. So you can find us almost every day of the week pushing out content and doing something similar to this so that we can stay busy and sane and stay connected.
Did you guys just come up with the Pound the Rock recently then, or have you been doing it for a little while? Or?
So myself and Richie started Pound the Rock podcast a couple months ago, actually. We decided we were originally going to podcast about our experience at the Icons, but when you win, you don't have time to do that stuff. And, so But that's how we started it. And of course we had no idea this was going to happen.
Right.
And so we take our videos. So we do live shows like you're doing. Then the video goes up on YouTube, and then we just take the audio from that and put it on the podcast feed as well.
Right. Cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. We'll check out all of those podcasts that Sailor does. And this is so much fun chatting with you.
Thank you.
You've been at it for a while. It's great to see someone that's done a lot of different things in whiskey and that's doing something so cool and so meaningful now, for the world. I mean, you're doing so many great things.
Thank you.
And Nearest is helping in so many important ways right now, with what's happening with COVID. So, yeah, it's great. This was a great old fashioned, my wife.
I'm so glad.
It made a great old fashioned. This was great. Thanks for chatting with us tonight here, Sailor, and be watching out for the 1884, the 1856, and when you can find it, the 1820. But you can definitely order these two on unclenearest.com, right?
Yes, you can.
So order those while you're quarantined, and you get free shipping when you use, what's the code?
Liquid Gold.
Liquid Gold.
Yes.
Liquid Gold. All right. Cheers, Sailor. Thanks for chatting with us here on
Tom.
the Drinking Team Series. And for all of you watching, thanks for joining us. Make sure you like this, share this, and come back tomorrow night, same time, when we are talking with not a metal band, although I like metal bands, but we're talking with a cappella group, Straight No Chaser, drinking some spirits. They actually have their own spirit now. So they have their own spirit.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah, they have their own vodka that's produced by Hard Truth Distilling in Nashville, Indiana. And I always do a backstage tasting for them every year, which is kind of fun too. So we're gonna taste some whiskeys. We're gonna taste some vodka.
How fun!
This one, actually, I'll tell you this. About a week ago, I interviewed actor Will Swenson, and I said, bring along a few of your favorite whiskeys. And he brought some Uncle Nearest on the show.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
He had some of the Uncle Nearest. He really likes your Uncle Nearest too.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Hey, I love that. Small world, right? So
Cheers,
next time you have to come on our show.
I would love to. That'd be great. I would love to do that.
Awesome. Thank you. And here's to sipping with friends in person very soon.
Yes, indeed.
Thanks.
Thank you, Sailor. And